Greetings everybody and welcome to another video. Today I'm at the wrong starting screen, but it's fine. We'll push on. Gaffgarion, a MR unit that is pretty easy to get shards for. Will probably be a character that a lot of people, returning players, might consider investing a fair amount of, job points into to get this guy fully reincarnated for low cost events, because he is effectively super low cost. Like 50 is quite good, a good number to just throw into maybe a sword based team, maybe a slash based damage team, and keep two other really high costed characters in there. So there's a lot of reasons why Gaffgarion could be the MR unit for this event. Question is he? So really quickly, I want to talk about equipment because we've talked about Sortilege in the previous video with Ramza. So I don't want to talk about too much. I don't think that the movement increase from this piece of equipment is going to be that valuable for this character. As for the other benefits, it's so-so, like single target resistance and whatnot. I think that this is probably not what you want for this character necessarily. You want maybe some armor or something like that. As for Nagnarok though, Nagnarok is something that you do want for Gaffgarion. It's reaction block, it's human killer, and it's 8% agility. That's a pretty substantial actual upgrade. 8% agility is nothing to sneeze at. And just being on a weapon like this with human killer, you're getting damage, you're getting speed, getting reaction block. I think those are three things that you are quite happy to end up with. Of course, providing that, somebody else has this weapon or another weapon that you're already using. So, I mean, point being that Nagnarok is actually a pretty decent piece of equipment to just be able to throw on as a backup if you don't have anything better. And it doesn't actually feel that bad to say that. Taking a look at Gaff himself, Gaff has a pretty good overall series of upgrades. However, I do question a little bit about the goal that they had when upgrading this character, because it does feel a little bit split between maybe two schools of thought. Dream ability here, we're getting increased accuracy, decreased AP consumption, and a ability increase. And that's fine. I mean, accuracy, we're never going to say no to it. AP consumption down is just good, and 30% goes a long way to making his kit more in line with some newer MR units. And that's all pretty good. We don't have a limit burst upgrade because of course it is a MR, but the other ability upgraded from his dream enhancement is his job level 25, which curiously is probably one of my least favorite upgrades, because it is essentially, the way I read it is that it hasn't almost changed even a little bit. Like, it seems almost the same. I think its range is a little bit better now. But the thing it's gained is that it deals extra, or basically decreases dark resistance for light targets, which is very counterintuitive right now, as light and dark units are more likely to be on the same team than opposing. Sure, you might fight some dark unit or some light units sometime with this character, but things have changed since the days when Gaff first came out. And light and dark has mended their ways to try and fight greater evil. Wind and fire is what it is. So this upgrade, I don't think is particularly that substantial or impactful, at least upon initial where I know JP meta actually is. All right, talking about his other upgrades. So Deception Kai greatly increases own/attack power HP upper limit for 3 turns, recovers HP by the increased amounts, increases human killer attack and /attack resistance penetration rate. Deception before wasn't doing that much as it was. Like, now it's essentially doing much better, but it still doesn't feel like it is that crazy of an ability. Like, I would go out of my way to insanely use it this much. I mean, It's essentially what it's doing is giving you a higher amount of HP to cover off, potentially using some of that HP for his self-damage attack. But honestly, I mean, if it wasn't for slash attack resistance penetration, it would be like, why even bother? It seems pretty mid. Taking a look at the number though, it is 40% slash attack resistance on top of 30 human killer, 40 slash attack, 40 attack, so it does add up quite quickly. Just feels like the upgrade itself was maybe a little bit more held back. Taking a look at Mercenary's Pride, we are gaining resistance to frostbite, paralysis, and stun, on top of confusion, charm, and stun. I think this is okay, but you know, really the thing that I kind of wanted to see here is I wanted to see curse resistance. It's the thing that we all do. Given that his HP can drop and he has some new, he has some abilities that absorb the damage done. His damage really is that high and he gets cursed, well, it's pretty much lights out for him. So I'm not feeling super great about that. Sacrifice. Greatly increase attack power, increase resistance penetration rate for AoE attacks, decrease resistance to all attack types, mitigate, decrease resistance to all attack types. So that cost ability where essentially he sacrifices a little bit of himself to, gain power up is good. It is, strong to do that kind of thing. But at the same time, while it is generally pretty nice, how to say it? Some of his attacks are focused on single attack resistance penetration. So for instance, his Dark Sword down here is a single target attack that basically has, a single defense resistance shred. And here we're just looking at resistance penetration rate for AoE attacks. So it's just a flat number for AoE, but it's a shred for single. It's at odds and ends for his abilities. It does give him a little bit of flexibility if his opponent is particularly good at one or the other, but at the same time, it's not like a focus damage kit like we see with a lot of newer DPS units that are quite successful. So feeling kind of wishy-washy here where, you need to sacrifice HP to really be at your best. You need to make sure that you are close enough because some of his attack abilities, particularly the ones where he is sacrificing HP to deal damage, are still quite close range. And there are a lot of units out there with high range, big AoE sweeping abilities. I'm still not overly convinced that this guy will actually be great anywhere outside of low cost. And again, for some people write in and say, Umbra, I know, that's good enough for some units. That's enough of a success case that the units are generally just fine in that position. And yeah, I do think that is okay. So let's do this. Let's throw on, I don't know, some piece of equipment. Let's throw on this one onto our unit and take a look. I mean, here again, not fully reincarnated, but about 7,000-ish HP, 1600 attack, 96 speed, which is probably the thing that I would be the most concerned about. Looking at resistances here, not particularly great, not super encouraging, but you never know. So let's jump in to a fight and see if you can deal some decent damage to these characters. And to keep it consistent, we will always do our buff dance at the start. Want to be fair, I mean, we did this for Agrius, we did this for Orlandu. I was pretty happy with the results there. We'll see if we get the same kind of thing here. Pick up that item because we are not evil people. We are not monsters. And then here we have Gaff. So without even doing too much. Let's take a look at just some of the cost of his abilities. You can see like here 4 AP, 11 AP, 22 AP. Nothing gets over 22 AP, and he has 44 to start, so that's pretty encouraging. I think to just have that pool of AP readily accessible, we look at what we're dealing with damage that we're upgrading, and it's not terrible for just his first attack. This one, little too short of range, again, is a thing that is a problem for him. Some of his attacks do need to be closer, so remember that. Taking a look here, again, not bad damage to characters like this. So yeah, pretty decent. Those counters swinging back the other way could be, you know, just a little bit too scary. So let's activate some buffs here. We have all of these things that we can actually do. So let's start off with this one. And continue just buffing away. And just do that nice little wait until we get to Gaff's next turn. And here we go. So let's take a swing at these characters now that we have gotten buffs, barriers, and everything up. And yeah, this is kind of the story of Gaff, where, you know, certain things are still missing in Gaff's kit, particularly like barrier removal, not having that in there. I mean, he does have access to, you know, guaranteed critical hits and consuming his own HP to deal a high amount of damage. And of course, for some of my abilities, I just haven't actually maxed him out on all HP, but you can see that that is problematic when he's dealing with certain characters with HP barriers. He will need that still to potentially get. And here, I mean, very high damage against himself, not so much against other characters. But I would say for like a lower cost character like this, he is still dealing potentially a decent amount of damage against his opponents. That's the TP one. So just looking at there, you know, about 2,000, 4,000 points of damage in there. Fairly okay. Could be the difference between winning and losing in a low cost environment if you wanted to throw another DPS on that team. But let's also try that single target AoE resistance shred. And yeah, you can see the situation here. I mean, we do have that Ragnarok doing that, and throwing on some extra pieces of equipment, such as, for example, the, you know, blood sword or whatnot, will overall improve his reaction, but potentially at the cost of speed. So you do have to think carefully about how you are going to build this character, what team he's going to be with, so you can actually get evaluation out of him. I'd say that his DPS is pretty okay, pretty nice, and can synergize pretty well with some of the characters out there. But, you know, as an MR unit, is this character going to set any kind of thing outside of, you know, limited cost? No. But pretty easy build for essentially anybody playing this event. That's a strong enough recommendation to strongly consider it. So there you go. That is my thoughts on Gaff. Think that, you know, he got a fair good bit of options, but not my favorite set of upgrades by any means for units that we've seen from this event. Thanks so much for watching, and of course we will report if we find out any data that maybe anything we missed. Thanks so much for watching. See you later.